Peace, family. Good evening. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt. It is Friday, or as we say over here, Friday. Friday, February. No, excuse me, I'm late. It's March the 3rd, 2023, and the time is 6:06 p.m. I'm so glad to see everybody tonight. And I just wanted to bring some news this evening. I hope everyone is doing well. My heart is heavy. So I'm trying to stay in an upbeat mood. I suppose the good news is that people are being arrested. People are being arrested for harming children. And this is something that the Creator has put on my heart for a long time. As many of you know, I've been a foster parent since I was 19, and I'm a woman of a certain age right now. I'm a middle-aged woman. I'm far from 19, but right after I had my first child, I started fostering children, and I actually had three foster sons when I was 19. My husband and I both had a heart for helping children, so it's something I've done all my life. I've always had many children in my home that I helped to raise, children in the community, children in the church. And back in those days, you didn't get paid for it. You did what you could do for the community because you were part of the you were part of the community, and that was your extended family. So when I was growing up, if you could not take care of your children, you would either ask your mom or your grandparents or your family members to take them. And then if people couldn't take the children in the family, you would look to people in the community who had a heart for children. And when I was growing up, there were several older ladies. Mother Harris is one of them that fostered hundreds of children and even adopted those children. And I looked up to her. So her Harrison was her name. Her name is Mother Harrison. So I looked up to her. I looked up to my grandmother, and I've always had a heart and a passion for our most precious commodity, which is our children and our future. So family, please keep checking in and talk to each other. I'll try to smile. My heart is heavy. I've been crying, just hearing the cries of the children and knowing that so many of them are going through a lot. And when I stumbled upon this article today, it reminded me of a podcast that Gold Star Mother Price and Prime Minister and I had done on Tuesday. And I just started, crying all over again because he prayed for the children. So let's get right into the news today. This is Friday, again, March 3rd, 2023. And I just want to let you all know that the war against the deep state has been more than the dinar revaluing, the Vietnamese dong revaluing. It's been more than us returning to the gold standard. And I love reporting on those things. But the big thing that has been on the minds of the soldiers that are taking down the deep state is what's been happening to our children, because our children, our precious commodity, are close to God, or close to the Creator. When they come here, they have just come from the other side. So they're fresh, they are innocent, they're precious, they're still light, they're full of light and love and vibrant, and they have high energy and high vibrations. So those nefarious beings that were in power answer to overlords who are not human. And what happens are those non-human beings actually eat children, consume children, and they would do hunting parties where they would chase them, and the children would cry and be in terror and be afraid. And when they do that, they would emit a psychic energy called loosh. This psychic energy is the energy of trauma. And then these nefarious beings, non-human and their hybrids who are human, would beat our children, brutalize them, rip them from their shreds, take away their body parts. And sometimes they would breed women to bring in more children and do these nefarious things to these children. And when the children would have their limbs ripped and be beaten and abused and assaulted, SEXUALLY, you say the word, you might get flagged, they would emit this psychic energy. And the psychic energy would actually make the people, and their humans and non-human beings who eat them, become high. And if you eat the word that starts with the A but has chrome in it, if you would eat that from the blood of the children, a Chrome. By the way, the Chromebook that you use, what you call it, the computer is actually named after adrenochrome. I'm just going to say it. So these nefarious beings would eat it. They would become drunk or high, and it also causes them to reverse in age so that they look very young. Thank you so much, Matthew. I love you so much. Oh my God, I appreciate you. The Creator bless you. Heaven smile on you is my prayer. You always take good care of me, Matthew. Thank you. And thank you all for being here. So I'm really feeling sad just knowing what these children would go through. So it's not only the non-human beings, but the people in entertainment and politics and so forth. In order to move up the ranks, you have to eat and digest children. Now, I don't know if many of you remember this, but Donald Trump had talked about how when Obama was in office, he ordered a lot of hamburgers. He ordered a lot of hamburgers and pizza and pop, and he went on, and people made fun of Donald Trump. It was like, he can't even say the word hamburgers. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. He's just a racist and a sexist. He just hates Obama because Obama is classified as black. He's a white supremacist, this Donald Trump is. And Donald Trump never said as he's a white supremacist. He's a nationalist. A nationalist is someone who loves their nation. He talked about hamburgers and how Obama had ordered a bunch of hamburgers because, I mean, do you really think the most powerful man in the world doesn't know how to spell? No, what he was doing was he was leaving cues for us, because hamburger is actually a word for children, for boys that they would rape, molest, and cause them to emit loosh or psychic energy so that they can eat them. Not only would they do that, but when women would get rid of their own babies because, it's their body, their choice, they would rip the limbs from the baby, suck the baby out of the woman's womb, and rip the child limb by limb. All the women who, a lot of women didn't know this, but they taught you and me that it was, oh, this is just your right. It's your body, your choice. But what people didn't know is that they were grinding up those body parts and eating them and putting them in lotions and shampoos. Somebody got to talk about it. I'm that one. I'm not afraid. I ain't never scared. I'm going to say what I got to say. They could take my YouTube channel down. People have to know the truth, and God is going to take care of me. And I've always had this burden on my heart for the children, because these children who were trafficked through CPS would go through the foster care system. And I was the type of foster parent who would have relationships with their birth parent and beg CPS to allow the birth parent to have relationships with me so they can see their children. Oftentimes they were ripped away from capable parents unlawfully. And in Louisville, Kentucky, it was found out that social workers would go to judges who had blank forms with their signatures already on it, and they would fill it out. Because the judges were complicit, fill out these blank forms. The CPS workers would fill it out and then get warrants to go and snatch children out from parents' homes against the parents' wishes, and snatch them out of the schools, because people have been so conditioned to believe they just have to follow whatever CPS says. But CPS is a corporation. It's a corporate entity. It's a business. It's not a part of the republic or a part of our government. So judges were complicit. Social workers were complicit. Schools were complicit. Counselors were complicit in the kidnapping of children from parents. Even if parents had a hard time being good parents and knowing how to discipline them, you could have taught them. You could have given them programs. You could have, maybe even placed them with family members. But the social workers placed them with their friends. And this is how people like one of my best friends, Rena Houston, she's going to tell her story one time. This is how she experienced it, being ripped from her mother and sold into trafficking through CPS. I have CPS worker friends who had to quit because they realized they were being used to traffic children. So the children would come to me and talk to me, and tell me how much they love me. They would beg me to adopt them, but I had so many children and I had children in my own home. I could not, it was too much for me to adopt them. And they would tell me about how they would go from home to home being molested, being brutalized, being beaten. And this is why children in the foster care system and children in adoptive homes smear feces on the wall, because they're so frustrated and fractured and broken up. And this is why they urinate on themselves a lot. And this is why they fight and they're aggressive, because they've been trafficked from home to home, raped, abused, mutilated. They can't tell anybody. If you send them from there to the group home, in fact, in Louisville, Kentucky, the group home that's well known for placing children is now in a whole bunch of trouble, because the people that work for the group home actually were raping children, and somebody just got charged with choking a child out to death. Because when you work for a group home and when you're working with children in foster care, they will even teach you the proper way to choke them or to restrain a child. And some of these children don't come back from that. So you can't talk to the counselor at the group homes. You can't talk to the social worker. You can't cry to the principal at school. You can't cry to the police officers, because the police officers just doing their job and taking you. And some of them are complicit. You can't go to the mayor. Who can you run to when you're a child? Nobody. Nobody. And this is why we are taking down all those people who have been complicit. As a matter of fact, at Marshall University, when I was working on a second master's degree, I took an advanced level psychology degree class for another master's, a high level psychology course, where the professor blatantly said to the class that he was often called to witness at court hearings when it involved children. And he was a person who testified that little girls asked to be raped. And I'm using the word rape. Little girls are not really innocent, because they smile and they flirt when they smile. And you know how little girls kind of do their head like this and they blink their eyes. He testified in court. That was his second job, for which he got paid a lot of money, to testify about how children, specifically little girls, asked to be raped. And he bragged about how he got many men off from being charged because little girls asked for it, according to him. Now, I had took issue with him. I went to bat with him and I argued with him in class. I went before the administrators at Marshall University, but because he had tenure, nobody would touch him. Who can these children run to? Who are they going to cry to? So children have told me stories of being bound, being assaulted, anally, vaginally, boys and girls. And just don't think it's just men that do it, women too. Do you know how many men I know today who have confessed to me, because I'm a counselor and a life coach, even though I don't coach that much now, have confessed to me that women molested them when they were children and teenagers. People think just because you're a teenage boy, your hormones are raging, that means you just want to go out and sling it everywhere. No, I've talked to grown men, lawyers, thugs, drug dealers, who have told me that not only have they been raped or bothered by men, but also by vile women. So protect your children at all costs. Do you know how some of these girls become homosexual? Let me tell you the story. I heard this from somebody very close to me. Don't just think that it's men, it's also women. Protect your children at all costs, because they have some vile, filthy women who call themselves mothers in the homosexual community. Older young ladies or older girls in their 20s and older women who will find your little non-assuming daughter who hasn't had sex yet, or maybe she's curious, and will grape her or assault her, because the girl might be curious or the teenage child might be curious, and then tell her, now I've broken you in. This is what they told me. Now I've broken you in and I'm your mother. You're to go and do this to other girls. Can you imagine telling that to a 12-year-old, 13-year-old who's sexually curious, or maybe not, been turned out by a grown woman or by a 20-something-year-old or college woman? Protect your children at all costs. whether they go to public school or private school, because it's actually happening in private schools just as much as public schools. Protect them at all costs. So they've been bound, they've been assaulted, they've been cut, they've been mutilated, they've been chased. And there's something about going through the back door anal that when that happens, it ruptures their fractures them mentally and emotionally so that they become schizophrenic and they develop multiple personalities in order to deal with it. Let me just give a disclaimer right now. If this is something that could trigger you, this is not a good idea for you to watch it. Please don't watch this video if you've ever been through this and it's a trigger, or if you can't take it because it's a lot. Turn it off right now, please. I ask you, and don't watch it, or watch it with somebody who's maybe a trained professional. So Cappy talked about this. I can't think of what's Cappy's first. Isaac Cappy was a B-list actor in Hollywood that came out about this, I think about 2017, 2018, and he went missing. More and more people are starting to come and talk about it. But at the local level, I was a foster mom in West Virginia, Kentucky, and Ohio. And everywhere I've been, and California, these children have come to me and said that when they were trafficked through CPS, they've been brutalized and beaten and raped or assaulted. And they can't tell anybody. So then if they tell, they'll get sent off to the group homes where it occurs on multiple levels. And they might even get choked out if they try to fight being restrained in order to be forced to do these nefarious, harmful things. And some of them have actually died while being properly restrained, because these sick people that snatch children, they teach you how to restrain, chokehold, and harm children in order to calm them down. So not only does that occur, but at the high level, you have, this is the secret societies, even in the Black Greek organizations. A lot of these people who are presidents of universities, chair of departments, over the psychology department, over such and such department, they are part of Black Greek fraternities. And Black Greek fraternities report to Skull and Bones at the top level, or they report to Boulay, who report to the Skull and Bones. So in order to make it up to the top, I heard, allegedly, they have to do things, and sometimes that includes doing things to children. Somebody got to tell a story. Now, a lot of the presidents of these universities, you think you can just make it to be a president of the university? No, honey, I have a PhD, and I know you don't make it just by on your laurels allegedly to be president of some of these universities, not even the Black universities. You have to be part of secret societies. Okay. And this is why even at Black institutions, HBCUs, that everybody think, oh, it's so much better than the historically Black, white college. I don't want to go to a PWI, a predominantly white institution. I'm going to go to an HBCU because they teach you about being Black and being successful. Well, that might be the case, but they're styled after PWI. I was talking to a woman with a PhD who studied institutions at a collegiate level, had to do the utmost research and pass. My research had to pass through the distinguished professors of my university. I had to defend my thesis, defend my dissertation before a board of distinguished professors before I can even get a PhD. I know what the hell I'm talking about, okay? Where people at the top in HBCUs and PWIs, predominantly white institutions, many of them do things to children and teenagers and young adults. Case in point, I'm just going to tell you, look up some of the institutions in your local community, because there are institutions in Kentucky right now that's under the microscope because the administration is forcing the young men on campus to participate in sexual activities and favors. So what happens is you have to be a part of a Greek fraternity before you can make it high up, and they'll choose from their own. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything completely bad about Black Greek fraternities or Greek organizations. I'm saying there's a reason why secret societies are secret. They have secrets that involve your children often, okay? I know what I'm talking about. So in the state of Kentucky, this actually happened where young men came forward to talk about how the administrators were forcing them. This is college men, 18, okay, where they're still trying to figure out their identity, forced while they're away on a field trip. These administrators would change their room so that they're not staying with their colleagues, but they're staying with the administrators. And when the young men say, I don't want to do this, they're told you have to. And then they're forced into relations. And then when these young men come home and they tell other advisors that they can trust, some of these advisors to whom I'm very close, and the advisor tried to get justice for these young men, the advisors get fired. You know what happens to the administrators and the presidents? They don't get fired. They move to different institutions. Okay. They don't get fired because the brotherhood and the sisterhood protects them. Meanwhile, these young men have emotional issues, they're traumatized, and they can't tell anybody. They have lawsuits, but who's going to give them justice when many police officers, mayors, and governors and administrators at the high level in the colleges are complicit? When psychologists that you send them to get counseling, they're a part of the Greek organizations too, or secret societies. How are they going to get justice? Okay, so when you're a part of a secret society, you are chosen to be a president of a university. You are chosen to be the director of medical institutions. You are chosen to be the sheriff of police departments. You are chosen to be CEOs of banks. You are chosen to move up the ranks, okay? And if you want to keep your position, some of you have to do things. And even if you don't have to do it, but you find yourself in compromising positions, you're protected by the brotherhood and the sisterhood. Now, I'm not saying that these organizations are all bad. I'm saying that the people at the top who participate, a lot of them are a part of secret organizations. So along comes 45. He was chosen by the military. He was chosen by the Galactic Federation. It doesn't matter to me if anybody believes that there are non-human beings here helping us or not. Ask your highest self if I'm telling you the truth. I am. And he was chosen by the Creator. He and many others were chosen to take down the deep state, because these non-human beings that are here harming our children also were doing it on other planets, and they were doing it in Europe, which is why the colonists, so-called colonists, or our European brothers and sisters, came here to escape their children being eaten and abused by these non-human entities. Now, if you don't believe that, you can follow, you can look at something that I did with Rod Hayes. Excuse me. Hold on, family. Hold on. Hold on 1 minute. You can look at a video that I did with Chief Rod Hayes, and he talks about how these non-human beings were doing the same thing in Europe, and we allow our European brothers and sisters to come over here to seek refuge. So this has also been going on other planets. Now, you have to watch your children when they watch Disney, when they watch cartoons, because a lot of things was going on through Disney. I'm gonna bring up those articles. And if you look at the cartoons, a lot of the images actually look like phalluses and yonis, private parts of women and men, because they're trying to condition the child to get used to these images so that they can prime them. And then they would, when these children go to school, and I've talked to people who went to school, they would be forced to do certain things with people at school, and then they will have their memories erased. Then when they come home, they don't even remember that they were molested. Okay. Then at high levels, when you go through the back door anally and hurt those children, what happens is children develop multiple personalities, and their personalities, remember I have a background in psychology, become fractured so that they can deal with the trauma. And then then they would be turned into another personality, so that that personality forgets about being traumatized. And the reason why they do anal is because they can create these multiple personalities through the children, and then send children, it's at the high level now, to different political leaders and give them messages to deliver to the political leader, and to deliver to other entertainers all over the world. When they would give them the messages, then those entertainers and political officials would then harm the children and abuse them and do explicit things to them, and then send them back to America or back to the country of their origin. And the child won't remember because their personality has been fractured. So now you have 45 and the Grand Army of the Republic and the military going all around the world to arrest these entities at the highest level, to who have harmed our children. So it's not only, thank you so much. May the Creator bless you and heaven smile on you. May He bless you with all of your heart's desires. I appreciate you. So they were arrested. So not only at the highest levels, but even like at the collegiate level, a lot of your professors were getting in trouble. I would say like around 2012, 2013 is right before Donald Trump came. They must have been doing some type of arrest right before he came on the scene as the president, because a lot of college professors were getting fired, but not really. They were getting transferred to other institutions. Professors, presidents, vice presidents of institutions of higher education, institutions, medical institutions, and what else? And just every segment of society. They weren't getting fired, they would get transferred because they were trying to escape being arrested, because it was starting to come out openly what they were doing to our children. And I know this because I worked for an institution and attended an institution where I saw it happening. Okay. And people behind the scenes that knew these professors would say that when some students would come into the office, they would see these professors watching child porno. They would see them watching it on the screen, and then the students would go and tell. And now that you told and other people know, they will have to transfer these professors and these high level people. So now you have the military that's become very serious. And I've been talking about this, about how this trafficking has gotten out of control, and it's happened all over the world. People attacked me on social media, and it got so bad that people were attacking me so bad that military men had to come to my post and say, leave her alone. She's telling the truth. I'm a part of Operation such and such. I'm a part of the military who is arresting these children. Leave her alone. Okay. So I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to let you all please keep talking. I know I'm passionate about this. I don't know what you're talking about here, but this is a very serious thing. So let's not joke, please. So let me show you what I just saw. Okay, I'm gonna get this to the screen. I know that was a long introduction, but I'm pretty hurt right now, and I've been wanting to talk about it. I haven't been talking about this in a long time, but we talked about it in my interview with Mother Price and Prime Minister the other day. And I was just moved because the children are on my heart to keep speaking on it. A mayor was recently arrested for what he did to children. And this was just published yesterday at 1:07 p.m. Now I can go through the articles quickly. Now I went through that long dissertation, but save the children. This is Operation Save the Children. Pray for the children. Save the children. This war is more than them stealing money from us. It's more than the dinar revaluing and going to the gold standard. Is about what's been happening at the highest level to our children. So a College Park, Maryland mayor was arrested for what he has done to children. Police say, this in Dr. Kia Pruitt saying, police said this. So the mayor of College Park has been arrested on charges of the P word, dealing with child P word, the harming of children. His name is Wojan, 47, arrested by Prince George County Police on Thursday morning yesterday, according to local outlet Fox 5. He was charged with 40 counts of possession of child exploitive materials and 16 counts of distributing child exploitative materials. He issued a letter of resignation. So he was arrested, but that's what they do. They'll resign so you don't know how involved they were. They don't want you to know that they are going to prison. Now, when you go to prison, when you harm children, then the prisoners will attack you and make you pay for what you did to children. This is how atrocious this act is, that even prisoners don't like it. They will pay you. He issued a letter of resignation on Wednesday in which he stated he will cooperate with the law enforcement and he doesn't want the investigation to distract from government priorities. So a search warrant was executed on February 28th on his residence as part of an ongoing police investigation. He said, "This is the mayor now. I've fully cooperated and will continue to cooperate with law enforcement." That's what he wrote in his letter. He said, "While this investigation doesn't involve any official city business of any kind, it is the best interest of our community that I step aside and not serve as a distraction." So it goes on to say this city has 35,000 residents. It tells you where it's located, and it talks about how he submitted his letter of resignation as the mayor of the city of College Park effective immediately on March 2nd. He served in that position since 2015, and he was on council since 2007. My God, how long has he been harming children? The city of College Park thanks him for his many years of dedicated service. I don't thank him for what? Because there's no telling how long. There's no telling how long he's been doing this to our children. So now let me just go through a few more articles to show you how serious this is. Pray for our children, family. But the good thing is that the arrests are being made public now. Here's another one published February 24th, 2023. 30 suspects arrested during an investigation that was focused on protecting children from expose, remember pig Latin, expose offenders and predators. It was in an operation called Operation Child Protector III. 38 suspects arrested for harming children. This was a 2-week-long investigation that focused on expose predators who target children and convicted expose predators and offenders who are required to comply with Florida's registration laws, including current restrictions in place based on their status. So you can see that this is not just in Maryland, but it's also in Florida. I'm just going to briefly go through these so you can see that this is a real issue. And I'm going to give you all of these articles and put them in the description section. So that's Florida, 30 people that were arrested for harming children. Let's look at another article. And that was just February 23rd. So that was last week. Look at this one. Florida again, Florida authorities. This was from the New York Post. 220,000 child porn images found in a 72-year-old house, Florida, 72-year-old person's house, Florida authorities say. So this is a 72-year-old man. Why does he have 220,000 images of children? You know what child porn is? I'll show you the definition in a minute. So if he has that many images and he's 72, how long has he been doing this and with whom has he been doing it? So authorities in Florida arrested a 72-year-old man last week after investigators found his home stashed with a sick trove of more than 220,000 printed images of children found in compromising positions, the P word, which investigators say weighed over a ton of images of children. Are you kidding me? This is his name, Paul Sittel of Ocala, Florida, faced 25 counts of possession of child P word for the haul, stacked and crusty old boxes throughout his office and his bedroom. Authorities arrested him on February 23rd and brought him to the Marion County Jail, where he remains on $250,000 bond. So you see, when people like XRP Lion comes to my platform and say that if you have a heart that's evil, oh, I'm getting lightheaded. If you are wicked, if your heart isn't right, you're not going to make it, and you're not going to make it to 5D. You're not going to make it to heaven or heaven on earth, or you're not going to be able to enjoy a place full of love and peace and happiness, he's talking about those people who've committed these nefarious, atrocious crimes against humanity. So we get excited when we say, oh, Executive Order 138.18 says if you committed crimes against humanity, your assets will be frozen and it's going to go into a trust and we're going to get that money because the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous and the meek shall inherit the earth. We're going to get that money. But do we think about the crime that was behind the money? Do we think about why it is that we say these people that harm children shouldn't be allowed to have access to the money? If your heart is not in the right place, if you to all my people who study the principles of Mayat, when you die or pass, they say Mayat, put your heart on scales. And if your heart isn't as light as a feather, you don't get to go into the new heaven and new earth, a new kingdom or heaven, or you don't get to enjoy higher dimensions. So you understand that. To my Christian friends, if you harm children, if you go against commandments, if you participate in crimes against humanity and against God or your creator, you don't get to go to heaven. You go to a place that they call the lake of fire. So if XRP Lion once say that some people not gonna make it, then my God, I say I see and I understand why. I overstand why, because you know what? Coming from a therapy background, coming from a background where I have 3 degrees, in counseling, where I have 5 college degrees, and being a rape crisis counselor, being the one who's had to hold hands with men and women who have been molested and assaulted while they get an exam, and the kit that they get examined by actually kind of violates you too. Being the one that had to counsel those type of people, and having to counsel some people who have harmed children, which is very hard to do. You know what they tell us? In my profession as a rape crisis counselor, that's what I did in my late 20s and early 30s. They tell you that if a person harms children, they are very hard to be fixed and to be rehabilitated. Some people will tell you they cannot be rehabilitated. Now, I think that everybody can be rehabilitated, and that everybody can. With God, all things are possible. But I'm telling you that when you harm children for a living, and that's how you get your rocks off, you're sick, and you will not be able to go to higher dimensions to harm the children there. You will pay a penalty. So evildoers have to suffer for their crimes, or else they'll continue to do it. Okay, there's a consequence for every behavior. Let's go on. Let's look at this one. 82 people arrested in 8 different states. Now, although this article was actually published in 2019, I just want to show you how prolific this issue is and how bad it's been even under number 45's presidency. More than 80 people were arrested across 8 states after an investigation into this exploitation of children and child P-word distribution, authorities said. The investigation, called Operation Southern Impact, began 4 months ago and involved more than 170 agencies from Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. You see this? And West Virginia, according to the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. They focus on tracking down people who possessed and distributed child P-word pornography, and those who may have been using the internet to prey on minors. A total of 82 people arrested, and the arrestees, the people who were detained, range in ages from 20 to 70. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation said in a press release. So this crime against our children has been going on for so long that we've become, I don't know, conditioned to not even think about it. When people talk about it, we'll tell people that they're lying. I remember when I came on my platform under 45 and started crying out about it and saying we got to do something about it. People would invite me to their platforms just to laugh at me and make fun of me and say, oh, there's no dumps. There's no deep underground military bases where children are being harmed. That's not happening. You're a fool. You're what they call you, a conspiracy theorist. And I'm like, why would I make up something like that? Why would I that's not something to joke about. We live in a sick world, family. But it's being cleaned out. That's the joy. And if there's any joy to be found in this. So here's another one. 13 mayors arrested. So this is, this is encouraging that people are being arrested, at least, right? This was actually published on March 3rd. So that was today at 5 o'clock in the morning. At least 13 mayors arrested on child XA crimes since 2021. The now former mayor of College Park, Maryland, was arrested Thursday, adding to a long list of mayors accused of preying on young children while exploiting the trust of their communities. Watch out for these people who have these organizations for the boys and girls, these dance groups. Now, I never dropped off my children anywhere. I took them. People made fun of me. Oh, I've even had church leaders say, "You need to let those kids go. You overbearing. You need to let them breathe." Do not drop your children off anywhere. Take them. There's a reason why some people get these positions to be over groups for boys and girls. A lot of them have nefarious behaviors and mindsets, and they have unrighteous, ungodly, unhealthy, unnatural appetites for your children. So don't drop your children off, not these dance groups, not these ballets, not these cheerleading places, not these hip hop places, because a lot of the leaders, there's a reason why they have them wearing tight pants and the little girls having tutus and thongs and all that stuff. And that's another thing. I don't understand women that go to the beach and have thongs going all up their cracks and showing all you don't have to do all that to go in the water and swim. Most of y'all don't even swim. You just want to show off your body. So you go to the beach with with stuff going all up your vajayjay and all up your butt, your bottom. You're grown. If that's what you want to do, okay. But then you dress your little girls like that and say, we're going to the beach, and that's proper beach attire. Why do you think they come up with that type of attire? Why do you think they have little girls dancing around and twirling in tutus and tights all day, and have them wearing short shorts and teaching the little girls to be cheerleaders with booty cutters and vajayjay cutters all up their private parts? Because they're getting off on them. And they'll tell you women, oh, let your daughters be models. They're so pretty, but you don't realize, because I know, talking to women who have been trafficked, that you start off modeling and they tell you, oh, you're so pretty. Why don't you just drop off a little something over your shoulder? And they think, okay. And the mother's no longer there, or your mentor doesn't come anymore, because you're a teenager, you're an older teenager, maybe you're young 20s. I'm grown. They'll entice you to take your shirt down a little bit. Then they'll tell you, oh, no, maybe this now you can use a bikini, a thong. Well, now that you got stripped down to a bikini and a thong, you might as well just take the bra off. Or the next thing you know, they got you doing all kind of things in the nude. Then they'll tell you to be a foot model. And then when you're a foot model, they start getting into the things that men do that are attracted to you, your feet, having you smashing on their faces and stuff like that. These people are sick. Then, since you're already doing that, now they might entice you to do something on camera to make a little more money. Then before you know it, you're sliding down poles, and then you're doing things in movies that you did not want to do, because you started being groomed as a child or as a young teenager or as a young woman. And they start off oftentimes modeling. Okay. They make you think it's not serious. It's something, it's just so benign, where you're just in front of the camera, you're making money. Before you know it, you're going to have to hire a man to protect you. Y'all know what they call those men with PIMP, to protect you, so that the other men in the industry won't harm you. And then you've gotten so addicted to the fast money, and you got addicted to the camera, and then they'll try to shame you. Oh, you did it once, you can't do it again. Oh, what, you scared? Oh, you don't trust yourself? Oh, I'm going to tell your mother what you're doing. I'm going to tell your mother that you let me do this, that, and the third. So when you start grooming them as children, it becomes a way of life. And a lot of those women who are participating in pornography are actually children that were trafficked, or women that were trafficked for whatever reason. And so they start to do things for people's entertainment, for money, or just so that people can get off. So the people who control them, the handlers, can get off. So let's get back to some of the articles. So I won't keep you. I just want you to see how pervasive this issue is. And again, I'm going to put all of those in the description section for you. Here's 11 charged. with child P word, possession or distribution in Howard County. That was in Maryland. This was actually in 2021. 11 people were charged. Possession or distribution of images, and not just images of children, but images of children that have no clothes on, and images of grown people doing things that's sick to children. This is in Howard County, Maryland. They arrested 11 suspects and charged P word cases on that Friday. They were acting on tips that were sent in from national and state hotlines for crimes against children, and they charged 8 adults and 3 juveniles with possessing or distributing child P word since July 2020. So this is why the battle is going on, to clean out the DUMBs, to clean out these organizations where this has been allowed to continue, because again, a lot of your judges and lawyers were complicit, a lot of police officers. I've even had spiritual leaders that come to me and say, I know this pastor and that pastor that's actually involved in doing those things to children. And it's going to come out that a lot of your church leaders, the people y'all watch on TV, not y'all, but the people that, because some people watch on TV, and some of the people in your local community, they're going to get arrested for bothering children. Now, just in case you didn't know what I'm talking about that happens to children, let's look at this word. Yeah, lock them all up. Let me quickly show you the definition, because some people don't know the definition. The P word, this word, that's the word I'm talking about. Unfortunately, we've seen a historic rise in the distribution of child P word and the number of images that's being shared online. Be careful allowing your children to watch things on computers and phones, because they have access to the internet now, and they're being solicited through social media, through all kind of outlets. They are being solicited to come and meet grown folks and do things. And it's easy to manipulate the mind of a child, especially if they're bored, or if the child has any issues, or they're going through identity crises, or they're just trying to find themselves. So when you work in student affairs, you know that people go through stages where they're trying to reconcile with their identity, whether it's their sexual identity, their gender, their racial identity. You just go through stages, even all the way up through adulthood and through college. There are theories that support this, okay? So the mind that makes decisions doesn't even start to develop until you're age 25. The decision-making aspect of the brain doesn't develop till 25. So why people kicking out their kids at 16, 17, and 18 is beyond me, because they're not even mature enough to make some very sound decisions. So we've seen a rise in this being shared online, and violence against children. And we've seen this increase over time, right? So it says here, this is the definition for those who don't know it. Child P word is a form of child exploitation exploitation. Federal law defines child P word as any visual depiction of explicit conduct involving a minor, which is a person under 18. Images of child P word are also referred to as child exploitation abuse. You see that word? I'm speaking Pit Latin. Exploitation, that's how you do it. Images of child P word are referred to as child exploitation abuse images. So federal law prohibits, it doesn't allow for the production, distribution, importation, reception, or possession of any images of child P word, children being sexually assaulted, children being actually engaged in adult activity, so-called intimate activities. Anything dealing with the distribution, receiving it, possession is against the law, and you can face severe penalties. So it's a violation of federal child P word laws. It's a serious crime, and it's an offense. And you used to have to register with the federal government as a child offender. Thank you so much. May the Creator bless you and heaven smile on you. I sincerely appreciate your love offering. It means a lot to me. So you used to have to register, and I think you still do as an offender, but some people don't know to check your registry to see if somebody who harms children lives right next to you. But this is something that you have to do so that you can protect your children. So I'm going to stop sharing that one. I'm almost done with things these articles. I just need you to see this. Now, here's another article. I just got new internet here, so it might not be working as well as the other one, the other home I was in. 2 Illinois men face child P-word charges in unrelated cases. This was just published December the 24th. This was just a couple months ago, 3 months ago, 2.5 months ago, because it was the end of December. So 2 Illinois men face charges. This is how pervasive this issue is. This was in Illinois, 2 different unrelated charges. What is a 42-year-old man doing? Soliciting and producing films of doing things with children and disseminating this. Multiple videos and photographs of doing things with our children. He was charged with soliciting, okay, and charged child P-word. Then you got a 66-year-old man allegedly producing material. If you're producing the material, that means you're doing these things that's engaging in adult behavior with our children. Can you imagine the trauma that causes a child having their body brutally attacked, entered, forced? Okay, some adults can't even handle that. Can you imagine a small child, a baby? It starts when they're babies, all the way up to young adults, and sometimes they're passed around between men and women. And you've been conditioned too to not tell the women, because if a woman has a boyfriend that's doing it, if she's dependent upon him, she might not tell. Or if she's abused, she might not tell. Or she might just be as sick as he is. Protect the children. Protect your children. So this is what we've been seeing happening, that's been going on all across America and the world. Now, I'm going to get into what's happening at these institutions, these places that everybody like to go to in a minute. Here's another article about the Democratic mayor that was arrested for possession of the P word. And he was previously mentored by somebody by the name of Pete Buttigieg, and he was invited to the White House. That doesn't mean nothing, because a lot of people at the White House has been doing these things. Like I told you when I started off, I was telling you how President Donald Trump talked about how Obama hired hamburgers and fed people hamburgers, and people thought Trump is stupid. He don't know how to say hamburger. He doesn't know how to spell it. He was speaking in code. And what I did is I decoded the word hamburger. You used to be able to find it online that it was a slang word for little boys who were being assaulted. Okay, little boys who were taken advantage of and treated like boyfriends. This is what they were doing. And he was saying Obama, I'm going to say allegedly, but he was saying he had these hamburgers there for all the political people at the White House to do things too. I wasn't going to say enjoy, but that's sick. It's not enjoying. So that was a mayor that was arrested. Now, let's look at what the police uncovered here. Let me see. This is another article. Police uncovers a massive ring at Disney. Does that shock anybody? A lot of these places that deal with children do so they can have access to children. This was actually in 2017, but this has occurred 2017 all the way up to recently in 2022, when Governor DeSantis created an executive order that Disney can no longer be a self-governing entity. They would govern themselves, create their own laws, and therefore be able to do whatever they wanted to do. So DeSantis said they were no longer allowed to do that. But this is before that happened, where the police uncovered a massive P-word ring at Disney World. Don't take your children to these theme parks either, or to the regular parks. Don't take them, don't drop them off and leave them there. Make sure they're always supervised until we clean this planet up. Now, I guess this is where the world I'm going to. I don't want these people to harm children to go with me. I don't. Wherever the creator sends you, bye. Okay. 2017, they uncovered a huge P-word ring at Disney, Florida, with over 35 employees that were arrested for alleged child, you see that word with the R, ape ray offenses. They literally entered the bodies of babies, children, allegedly. Okay, police uncovered a huge ring at Disney World in Florida with over 35 employees arrested. I just want you to see that. I'm not making this up. Okay, this is in what this is called newspunch.com. Okay, it was updated to March 3rd, 2023, but it was published in December. Bear with me, family. So when we say let's have some patience with people that say everybody's not going to make it to the new kingdom, or they're not going to make it to heaven, they're not going to make it to 5D, it's not about trying to be mean to people. It's not about trying to be judgmental. I'm judging. If you harm children, I'm judging you, and I'm saying you're sick and you need help, or you need severe punishment. But we're saying that if the new world, you don't want these people to go, at least I don't. But all these things are happening under 45's administration and beyond, where we know he's still the president or still the commander in chief, but it's happening, family. So that was at Disney. Now let's look at, here's another one as it relates to, oops, did I take you out here? No, as it relates to Disney. Disney child predator problem. Disney's child predator problem. You see that? So I'm not saying Disney in itself is a bad place, but I'm saying there's something that was going on there. And this was actually published March 31st, 2022, this time last year. Okay, so that's a problem. Eyes on the news. The Walt Disney Company has long presented itself as the voice for America's children. But according to company lore, the animation studio was founded by a wise and kindly father figure, and its theme parks are the happiest places on the earth for kids. See how they play it up? It's a sweet, happy place. The man is a kind, fatherly figure. Oh, he's sweet. He founded this. But when you look into his character and his past, you might find some nefarious things was going on. In fact, I heard an interview with one of his cartoonists who said that he worked for Disney and he would create images, and the Disney people in power, maybe even Disney himself, was like, no, don't make it like that benign. Like, make the image out of a phallus. If you don't know what a phallus is, you have to look it up. PHAL, I think it's one L, maybe two L's. It's the parts of a man. Now, make it from the phallus, make it from the yoni, make it from the breast, make the cartoon images from a nipple. And he said the more I worked for him, the more creative he wanted me to be, the more explicit he wanted. And these were child cartoons, cartoons for children. But behind its meticulously curated self-image, Disney had a long-standing problem with child predators gaining employment with the company and exploiting minors. In 2014, reporters at CNN published a bombshell 6-month investigation that discovered at least 35 Disney employees had been arrested for crimes against children, XA crimes, attempting to meet minors for XA, and possession of child P-word porno over the previous 8 years. The stories are horrifying. In one case, police set up a sting operation that nabbed 3 Disney employees who believed they were soliciting XA from minors. So it gives the name, who oversaw. These people oversaw rides and ride repairs at Disney World. They enticed someone that he thought was a 14-year-old girl for XA in a private residence. I'll leave his name, you can read it. Another employee allegedly brought condoms with him to have XA with a 14-year-old child. And then a concierge at the park's Animal Kingdom Lodge went to meet a 14-year-old boy to fulfill a fantasy of being big teddy bear for a young chaser. See how they try to lure these children? Let's fulfill a fantasy. Let's be big teddy bear. And then they lure them in and do nefarious things to them. He set up a trap to catch child in all 3 cases, the men were met and then arrested by police who had set up a trap to catch the child predators in Orlando region. This person denied the charges. Another one admitted that he had, actually done bad things to a 15-year-old boy a few weeks prior to his arrest. By bad things, I mean actually penetrating him. So other Disney employees were found to have committed child XA crimes using the internet. So it talks about how, according to the records, you could look into their computer, the Disney workers' computer, you would see all kind of things that they have been downloading. Of children engaging in actual say activity with grown folks, with adults. And they had a security guard who was charged with 7 counts of promoting videos and pornographies. This is a security guard who's supposed to be securing the grounds and protecting the children. So when we're talking about all these things that's going on behind the scenes with all this, the crime and them stealing money, know that it's deeper than that, that they're also harming children. Okay. And it's at every level of society, in every segment of society: entertainment, politics, religion, churches, schools, boys and girls clubs, dance clubs, extracurricular activities, you name it. They were doing things to children. So let me get to this. This is DeSantis. This is what he did. Whether you say it's him or an actor posing as him, I'm just telling you what he did. This was published March the 1st. It was updated March the 1st, but I remember reading this article last year, or at least an article just like it. Florida Governor DeSantis signed a law ending Walt Disney Company's self-governing status on Monday, explaining his feud with Disney in an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal, because Disney would create their own laws and govern themselves so that it didn't matter what kind of things they did to children. They had their own laws. DeSantis ended that. He had been feuding with Disney and said, no longer can you have your own laws. The law removes Disney's right to self-govern the 43 square miles that make up Disney World in Orlando, Florida, a status they have held since 1967. Imagine how long they've been harming children. Did DeSantis call Disney's special arrangement an indefensible example of corporate warfare, saying the corporation had undue influence over politics and culture in Florida? Because when you're self-governing and you own all that land mass and you have all that money, you not only create laws, but you influence the politicians who you have in your pocket because you fund them, and because many of them most likely engage in doing things to these children. So the modern left has jettisoned principle in favor of power. They keep making this a left thing or a Democratic thing, but there were people involved on both sides of the spectrum, allegedly. Okay, it's not even about party, this one party over that one party. A lot of them on both sides of the fence. But they say if there's 2 different wings, but it's the same bird, were allegedly involved in harming children. So it says, as long as large corporations help advance the left's woke agenda, the left is willing to do their bidding. The law that was signed that week created a new state-controlled board consisting of 5 members appointed by DeSantis. Disney's previous status provided the company with favorable tax treatments. So Disney used to get favorable tax treatments, including the ability to assess its own property valuations and to enjoy the benefits of regional infrastructure improvements without paying taxes towards the projects, DeSantis wrote. And what's interesting about that is I grew up coming to Florida a lot because we had churches here, part of the organization that I'm a part of, the church organization that I used to be a part of. And Orlando, a part of Florida, including Orlando, used to have a whole bunch of trees and orange trees and even farmland and just all types of fruit trees all over the city, but it kept getting bought up by Disney and some of these other companies that are affiliated with Disney. So they bought up a lot of the land, and then they controlled the land by owning it, and then controlled the politicians, and therefore were able to do all the nefarious things that they could do without being governed by the state. Well, DeSantis took control of that by creating a law that said no longer could Disney become a self-governing entity. Thank you, family, for bearing with me and allowing me to go through all this with you. I really appreciate it. So now this leads me to, I think, did we talk about, I got another one here. Okay, that's another article about DeSantis. I'll just get out of that, about what he did to stop Disney from being self-governing. Again, I'll put all of these articles in the description section for you. That leads me to something I saw by Nicholas Benjamin. He talked about a screenplay that's coming out. I think it's a screenplay or a movie or a film. He wrote it on his Telegram. I hope you could see this. I just wanted to share this with you because they're leaking a lot of this information out so people can know what's been going on behind the scenes. You can follow Nicholas Vinyamin on Telegram under his name. And he talks about how this is a press release. This came out yesterday, March 2nd, a press release, a docudrama, a documentary and a drama mixed together that will be released soon. Actually, it will premiere March 21st, 2023. It's a bone-chilling human trafficking docudrama, and it's called Cages. A lot of people will say you're lying when you say that there were children in cages, women in cages, grown folk in cages, where they were trafficked them in this country, just being trafficked and taken all across the country. Don't you think that it's strange that if a child is under 2 years old, the child can fly anywhere in America and maybe even across the world without any type of identification? The child doesn't have an identification. The parent doesn't even have to prove that the child belongs to that person that's transporting the child. Don't you find that a little weird that I don't have to prove this is my child? Well, maybe there's some nefarious activities that's been going on and allowed to happen to these children, and which is why you don't have to prove they belong to you. Because I can tell you, when you live on the border, you know that a lot of these people that you think is just people coming over here for opportunities so they can have a better life, a lot of them were part of MS-13, gang members, M6, trafficking, and all this stuff, pretending like these women and children belong to them. They were their families, but they would bring them, sometime in cages, across the border or not, and force them to come against their will, and then sell them into the entertainment industry to perform for some of you who are addicted to porno. And you think it's just a woman, and how you can think a woman is enjoying that is beyond me, because I'm starting to wonder what's wrong with some of our brains that we can even watch this and get turned on. But maybe it's because you didn't know a lot of these women were actually trafficked from other countries through the border and right here in America. And some of them started off as children and they were groomed into it. And some of them were runaway teenagers who were groomed into doing things on the screen for people's adults entertainment. So a movie is going to be brought out about that. It's a docudrama. It's called Cages. Some children were actually brought in cages and transported, and they were kept in cages underground and in many of these different places where they've never seen the light of day. Some of them have been beaten, some have been assaulted, and all mutilated, all type of things. So when we say this is a serious thing, family, it's very serious. It's egregious. It's hurtful. It's why a lot of people don't want to hear about it, but it's real. It has really been occurring. And what's happening now is that they're flooding out those tunnels. They're rescuing those children, the ones that they can. And many military men and women have lost their lives in this battle. Okay. Even Mother Price has lost her son. Gold Star Mother Susan Price has lost her son, who's been battling for our freedoms. I don't know if he's protecting children, but for our liberties and freedoms. And she's going to come on Monday to tell her story. So I've talked to people whose children have been in the battle, and I've talked to men who are still in the fight, who I don't know how they found me on social media, but they found me and actually came to my rescue when I was talking about this and told people, back off, this is real. I'm a part of this operation. So it goes on to talk about how the creator of the movie or the documentary Watch the Water actually is the creator behind this particular documentary. So I'm going to leave that in your in the description section, because it says this guy is the founder of all platforms named Screw. The platform that he's a founder of is Screw Big Government, meaning meaning it means to screw being governed, mind controlled by people who pretend like they represent you and me in the so-called alleged government. So this particular person is producing a documentary called Cages, and then the guy who produced it will travel with his team throughout Florida for the next edition of the Truth Tour. So he's on a Truth Tour, and so this is a press release about Cages, this docudrama. I'm going to leave that for you to look into and to follow Nicholas Benyamin because he talks about it. And then finally, family, in my conclusion, I just want to encourage you to pray for the children and to know that many of our children have not had a voice. They've been abused. They've been taken from their homes, some of them. Some of them were taken out of nurseries and hospitals. Some children were actually ripped from their mother's womb during certain procedures. Sometimes, those procedures, maybe they told a woman, in order to save your life, you have to have this procedure done. Or even if women voluntarily did it because they weren't ready to be a mother, a lot of children were ripped from their mother's womb, limb by limb, and different things were happening to their organs and their limbs, like put into products that people actually use in their hair and their skin and actually eat. Or you've had children that were taken away from the home and trafficked through the three-letter organization that starts with a C and end with an S, and trafficked into foster care homes and trafficked into group homes where they've been beaten, abused, mutilated, and actually say assaulted, raped, and told that they could not tell. Who are you going to tell? You've already been taken away from your parents, your family, your grandparents. And these sick people that took children out of home and took them to foster care families, they would pay foster parents to take care of the child, but they won't pay the families. So you might have a family step up and say, yes, I already have 5 children. I'll take my niece and nephew, but it's hard for me because I have 5 children. How will I feed them if you don't help me? These nefarious people will say, we can't pay you. They used to pay families. We can't pay you because you're blood, your family, but we'll pay the stranger over here. And oftentimes the stranger is somebody who actually is a part of the organizations that harm children, or they would funnel them into social workers or to their friends' houses so they can pay their friends. But these children who were abused, mutilated, forced into compromising positions, who could not tell, if they told, they were further beaten or they were taken to another home where they were treated even more harshly. So nobody was there actually to hear the cries of the children, because if they would go to the police and the sheriff and to the teachers and the principals and to the pastor and to the judges and the lawyers and cry out for help, a lot of those people were either paid off or they participated. So family, what I'm saying is, at this time, we're cleaning up the planet. We're not just cleaning up the planet from people who have stolen money from you and me, people who have circulated our birth certificate bonds on the New York Stock Exchange and made money. We're not just cleaning out the places where people have used our social security numbers as bank account numbers to enrich themselves and buy things, but we're cleaning out the DUMBs, the deep underground military bases, the underground cities all across the world. We're cleaning out even the black hat portion of the military, the governments, the entertainment industry, the actors, the athletes, the artists, everybody, teachers, lawyers, doctors, administrators, all across, CEOs. Because again, in order to make it to high level places, a lot of them are part of secret societies that either they had to engage in things that deal with children, or if they heard about it, they weren't allowed to tell because you're holding a secret. Okay. And if you told, they would take away your money, your finances, your way of life, your profession, or they will harm you, your children, and your family members. So this is deep. It has gone all across the world. Now they're cleaning it up. Now they're arresting people. Now they're even publishing about these arrests, and they're not allowing these entities to become self-governed. When you pray this evening, family, I ask that you remember the children. I ask that you remember the cries that they have made and the supplications that they've made before God, and nobody's heard them. I ask that you imagine being a baby, a child, a helpless victim of a grown man penetrating you, a grown woman doing things to you, not just with their organs, but with instruments. We can't even fathom that as an adult. Imagine being a child, and the only way you can cope with it is to actually have your mind fracture and your personality fracture into different personalities so that you can cope. Family, pray for the children and keep them in mind when we talk about how we're cleaning up the planet. and how everybody will not have access to their money. Because if you give these type of entities access to money, they will just steal it. They will just steal money from you and me and take their money and re-empower themselves and keep up with the activities that they've always been doing. So I'm going to close with this prayer. This is from a meeting, an interview that I did with Gold Star Mother Susan Price. And again, she will be on Monday. And this is her, me, she, Prime Minister, and I. Prime Minister is the patriot that many of you all know. He's an artist also who did not sell his soul, which is how he could get behind 45. He didn't sell his soul to the industry. He is a gospel rapper. He knows some people in the industry, but because he wouldn't sell his soul out, social media and all these platforms shut down his businesses, shut down all of his abilities to make money online, as he was giving the messages of hope and praying for the children and working with white hats to help our children. So they tried to stop him from being able to make money. However, we brought him on the platform. He spoke about the egregious things that have been happening with our children. And he, Gold Star Mother Price, and I came before you and asked you to please keep the children in mind and please pray for them. And in my conclusion, family, I'm getting tired. I'm just going to ask you to listen to this prayer. We're going to close with this prayer, and I will ask you to please make it a great day and fight for the children. So here we go. I'm going to mute it on my end so you can hear this prayer by Prime Minister, an artist, a patriot, and a freedom fighter. All right, Prime Minister, any last words and close us out in prayer, please, if you will.
Stay united where we go, one we go all.
1 minute. Here you go.
Yeah, I hear that. Just say a prayer for it, brother. All right, I'll be good.
Right.
God got me covered.
All right, Prime Minister, any last words and close us out in prayer, please, if you will.
Stay united where we go, one we go all. You know, shout out to Gideon's Army, shout out to Negative 48 crew and all of the patriots around the world. The best is yet to come.
Yes.
Here comes our man.
Amen.
All right, Father, in the mighty name of the Lord, we give you thanks. We thank you for a blanket of protection around our country as we head into the eye of the storm, as we head into disclosure. We pray you prepare the hearts of your people for the truth. We pray that justice comes to Congress, justice comes to the White House. Father, we pray that the elite, wherever they run and wherever they hide, I pray that you will smoke them out and find them and bring them before the people where they will have to give an account for the lives that they've taken. Pray that your people will become one, even as you are one with the Father. Break all of the strongholds of the MK Ultra, religious institutions, collegial institutions, all of the programming that has wore our minds and our souls down. Let your people rise up like you rose up, glorified, pure power. No more death, no more disease. Thank you, Father. So be it.
Amen. Amen. God bless you. God bless you, Prime, man of God. We are so grateful and honored to have you here in the battle. We love you so much. Continue to walk in the power and the authority that God has given you, and continue to know that you are going to be okay financially. We're going to continue to love on you, support you the best we can. Mother, thank you so much.
God bless you, God.
God bless you too. Mother, I love you so much, and I'll be talking to you.
Love you too, Prime.
Bye, everybody. Bye, family.
Bye, everybody. Love you.
We love you. Good night, family. I love you. Peace. Make this a great night. Pray for our children. Good night.